Welcome to the F Words with Gordo. Thanks again for tuning in. I'm Gordo, your host, where we talk about things that people don't talk about and we should talk more about. And this episode is all about after my triathlon that I ran on Sunday, September 15th. All about my experience, how it's been afterwards, the things that I did beforehand that I think paid off. And I hope you enjoy. I hope this maybe inspires you to try something new. I don't really have the build of someone that does triathlons, and I just had a really great time and felt love and support from a lot of people, and I'm excited to tell you about everything that happened. So thanks for tuning in. I love you guys, and enjoy the episode. Letter F. Welcome to the F Words with Gordo. I'm your host, Gordo. This is the F Words, where we talk about things that sometimes people think you shouldn't, and you actually should. And this episode is fitness part 2, talking about my triathlon. Last episode was pre-triathlon. This episode, post-triathlon, and my experience around that. And let's just get right into it. So Saturday, there's a bike check, drop off, race packet pickup. And Friday, Saturday, I was feeling pretty anxious and pretty nervous, and I was trying to analyze where's that feeling coming from? And I find I can experience feelings and they just kind of sit with you. And it's not till you kind of cognitively analyze, where's this feeling coming from, that you figure out what's kind of going on. So I was feeling anxious, and when I was really trying to determine where's this feeling coming from, I was just kind of feeling anxious and worried about looking stupid on race day and with a bunch of people I don't know and people being mean, which is just kind of silly. But it's sometimes sometimes you have these feelings and you have to almost acknowledge them in order to kind of move on from them properly. And so, but when I kind of thought that overtly, I kind of felt more peaceful, and Saturday I did the podcast, and then I had to go to bike check and pick up my race packet. And so my wife came with me, and that was nice. And you just kind of go get your packet. The people at the packet pickup kind of didn't seem to know a lot of firm details about different things. So it was hard to get some questions answered. But then I dropped my bike off and then went onto the dock where the swim goes. And there was a gentleman there, and asked him and said, "Hey, it's my first triathlon." And he got so excited, and he's like, "You're gonna have so much fun." He's like, "If I can give you one piece of advice, go slow in the swim. Don't just go slow. You have to actually go slower than you think slow is. Because you'll just get ahead of yourself. You'll burn yourself out." Happened to me on my first race. And then the water was so cold, started hyperventilating, had to breaststroke, but I still finished. So he's like, that kind of indicates how slow you can go and still finish. And I was like, okay, good to know. And then my wife and I left. We drove around the bike route just so I could get a lay of it. And then went and dropped my wife off at home, went back for a race briefing at 5. And I saw all these other people there just on their own. In the crowd, you can tell when people are together or when they're just standing by themselves. And I kind of felt like, oh, I'm not the only person doing this on my own. And that kind of brought me even more peace. And during the briefing, they have some senses of humor, and they're pretty casual, kind of announcing different rules and different things to watch out for. They're like, if you use headphones, automatic disqualification. If you're using your phone they said you can use your phone for a race computer, but if you use your phone for social media or anything else, automatic disqualification. And I was like, whoa, which I knew headphones were not permitted. So the last few weeks I had been doing training with no music or headphones or anything. And then, headed out from there. My in-laws came down, which was awesome. And so we went for dinner. And then I was just packing, made my list. I think I already had my list, and I just had everything laid out, made sure I had everything, packed it into a bag and a bin. And then basically, went to bed, tried to sleep. I felt tired, but I didn't fall asleep till maybe, I don't know, probably 12:30 or 1. And then I woke up at 5. So For my eating, all day Saturday, had a smoothie bowl, had some rice and chicken, had the Dragon Bowl at Brown's. Sunday morning, got up and had a small smoothie bowl, and then headed out pretty quick. Everything was packed, so I just headed out, stopped, and got a coffee, but I delayed drinking it until I was awake for 2 hours. Just because I know your adenosine system, I don't know. Huberman says you shouldn't do it for 90 minutes after you wake, so I didn't do it. And I got there, way more people there. There's almost no room. You're not supposed to go out half a meter on each side of your bike, but there was only half a meter gap, so you could only really go out a quarter of a meter. It was pretty tight. But then, got my stuff ready, and got my wetsuit on. My wife was just hanging out, which was really nice, and went and chatted with her. And then people were just practicing swimming in the lake, kind of inside the dock area. And I thought that's such a good idea. And so I just did some practice lengths really slow, made sure my form was good, made sure my shoulders were limber, and I had put a gel in the sleeve of my wetsuit. So right before the race, I could consume this gel. And there's so many gels you could get. I found gels. I really was mindful the week leading up specifically to try to avoid processed foods, just because I thought this is going to be so hard on my body. I want to remove any potential inflammation from processed foods. And so when it comes to gels, I didn't want to have just like any kind of gel that has highly processed sugar and stuff. I wanted something with more natural ingredients, which I found. And I snuck one in my little wetsuit sleeve. And then when it was getting close to race time, just pounded it, threw it in the garbage. And then so I was the fourth heat, basically. They stagger you by 5 minutes. So there's the sprint triathlon, and the sprint triathlon, men and non-gendered go first. 5 minutes later, sprint women. 5 minutes later, so I was the third, men and non-gendered. And basically, you're in the water. It's a deep water start. Horn goes, and everyone pieces out. And then I just hung out by the dock and just waited 10 or 15 seconds, was just counting in my head, taking some deep breaths. But you're right by the dock, and my family was right on the dock right by me. I could hear my mother-in-law like, why isn't he going? Why isn't he going? And I was just like breathing, and got to 15 and turned around, looked at them and said, bye, and went for my swim. And, I have a smartwatch, and I've had issues with it tracking distance. And I realized the GPS hasn't been working, and it uses, sometimes it uses movement for steps, but if you're swimming open water, it won't track your distance without GPS working. So I had to make sure that was going so I could track all my distances. And then, just went for the swim. And so here's how do I do this? Here's what I'll say. I had a goal in mind for the triathlon. I wanted to complete it, for one. Two, the last person last year was 4 hours, 35 minutes. So I wanted to be faster than potentially the last person. Three, when I added up the times of all of my sports, I got to about 4 hours. And so I wanted to, I thought I potentially could beat 4 hours, but then I thought that's individual time, or maybe, combining two of them. I've never combined all three distances at once. So I thought, I feel like I'll be slower because I'll be more tired. And so I thought maybe I could get under 4 hours, but that seems a little unlikely. Anyway, horn goes, wait 15 seconds, go for my swim. And I just went as slow as I could and just told myself, you're probably going too fast, go slower. So I did. And I went around the swim, and you kind of go around this big loop, come back, and didn't really pass anyone. Didn't really get passed by anybody for that first loop, or for most of it. And then when I got to the end of it, checked my watch, and I was about minute 20 or 23, and I have 70 minutes to complete the whole swim. And it was about that time I started getting passed by other people, but I just maintained hey, just go nice and slow, man. And there's also philosophy, because even basically, if you're an expert level swimmer, or you're highly, highly skilled at swimming, basically you can only really shave off maybe 10 to 15 minutes of your swim. Like maybe if you're really slow, maybe you could work up to faster. But the kind of point of this philosophy is if you're the most trained and you're the most energized, you have the most effort you can put out versus swimming slow, you might save 10 to 20 minutes, maybe. So just go slow. Just work on technique, go slow, conserve your energy. That's what I did. First loop, 23 minutes, got around. On the second lap, I was getting a bit breathless because what kind of happens is when I'm thinking about going slow, I go slow. When I start daydreaming and you get kind of bored, so you start daydreaming, thinking about TV shows, you go faster. That's what I find is you kind of go faster naturally when you're not mindful of it. So I was getting a little breathless, so I had to keep my head above the water for a bit and just like, have a solid maybe 30 seconds or a minute of just constant breaths. Because when you're front crawling, you're staggering your breaths. You're structuring your breaths. So I found I was getting breathless, so I did that, but then I'd be good for another 5-10 minutes maybe, and just kept going. Just basically never stopped moving. I tried backstroke, but I found it impossible to direct myself, and I don't want to veer totally off course. So I just would kind of stick on my front. And then I found if I really made sure my face was looking down, I felt like I was gliding better. So there's like a few things you pick up on that help maybe efficiently get through the swim. And I got through the second lap in 46 minutes. So both my laps were 23 minutes, which is pretty crazy how consistent that is. And I just felt great. Got out from the swim. I'm running up. I got family and friends and my wife all cheering, and got to the transition. And my original plan was to put a robe on, take my wetsuit off, get totally naked, dry off, put on my bike stuff. But they have porta potties, and I was pretty close to these porta potties. So I took off the top half of my wetsuit, dried off, put my shirt on, and then took off the rest of the wetsuit, but left my underwear on, and then ran in my underwear to the porta potty, got changed, dried off, put on my bike shorts. And I think in some, professional triathletes, they will just strip their wetsuit off and then head out for the bike with a triathlon suit out underneath. But I was like, I'm not trying to shave a minute off of my overall time here. I'm trying to finish, and I have a better chance of finishing if I'm comfortable, if I'm dry, and I kind of dry off before going and get the proper clothes on. So I decided to take a couple extra minutes in transition to do that. Got on the bike, headed out, and I knew if I finished the swim, you have to finish the bike by 11:30, which I thought would be no problem because I finished the swim 46 minutes around 9, so I had 2.5 hours, and typically I finish the bike in like hour 40, hour 45. Headed out and just was so stoked, and I got about maybe 5 or 10 kilometers in. It's mostly kind of downhill, so you're just getting a lot of distance without a lot of effort. Got passed by 5 or 10 people the first half of the bike, but around kilometer 5 or 10 I pounded another gel. And I kid you not, there's very few times I've tasted something as wonderful as that gel at that portion of the triathlon. And I was just like ready to go. I was like, let's go. I wasn't sprinting energy to go forward at that point, but I was like keeping a good pace. Got through, basically the first half of the bike ride. Some friends surprised me. They were just out there cheering for me, which was really nice. And got passed by 5 or 10 people, but I really didn't care because I liked the pace I was going. Then the second half, I passed probably 20 or 30 people. And I don't think I got passed by one dude on the last hill of the race. And I was just like, let's go. Like, yeah, this is paying off. I think I had 2 more gels on that bike ride. And the end, it's a lot of hills at the end. So I was pretty nervous how I was going to feel on those hills. But training pays off, man. And I've done hills. I've done a massive hill in Kelowna. And I got to those hills and I was like, hey, this isn't too bad, and there's a pretty big downhill into Cultus Lake. And I got through it and I was like, wow, I feel so good. I had a bottle of electrolytes and water, and I drank quite a bit on there too. And then got through, and I think I got through in minute 39. And I was like, this is amazing. I did not expect to do it this fast. Got to transition. And the first transition was about 5 minutes, and this one was about a minute and a half. I just, you swap your shoes, drop your bike equipment, pick up your race stuff, which for me was just shoes and a running vest that had gels, all the water, all the electrolytes I needed. And I headed out 10K run, and I just started going super slow. Like my typical kind of slow pace is like 7 minutes, 30 seconds per kilometer, 7 minutes, 40. And I was kind of pacing that for the first few kilometers, and I was getting passed, but it's a 5 kilometer loop. So I think I was kind of getting passed by a lot of people on their second loop. And I just thought, I don't really care. Like I want to conserve energy so I can run the whole time. But by the end of the race, I want to use all the energy. I don't want anything left in the tank by the end of the race. So I need to pace. So first loop was like fairly, not super slow, but just like, my pace was over 7 minutes a kilometer, and got through the loop, headed out. And I was like, okay, it's time to like amp it up a little bit. And just on that second half of the run was a grind, to be honest. It's so different from swimming and biking, where the energy you put out can be like almost compounded, because when you stop moving, you keep gliding and when you're swimming or you're biking. When you're running, if you stop, you stop. So, but I just thought, I can increase this pace a bit for the early part of the second 5K, and I did. And I thought, I'm just going to keep going. Like, let's get this ripping. And I did. And I started passing people in that second 5K too. And that felt really good. And then I got to, the last kilometer, and I said, let's kick it up a pace. And I was at a pace where I was like, I don't know if I can do it. And I could see the finish line, and I thought, you can do it. Let's keep it. Like, it's so mental. When you get to that point, when you're feeling really exhausted, my heart rate was very elevated. It's all mental. Like, I should just stop and walk, and you say no. Oh, and I thought, as my pace was going, I think I could finish. This is a bit arbitrary, but I thought I could finish by noon. And my heat started at 8:20 or 8:15 was when it was supposed to start. And I thought, if I push this, I kept checking my pace. I thought I might be able to finish by 12 o'clock, and that would be like significantly under 4 hours. So that was kind of something pushing me. And that last kilometer, I just was so gassed, but kept going. And then when you find out you're only, 100 meters, 150 meters from the finish, you just kick it up and you just run as fast as you can, and you cross that line. And it felt so good. Like, everyone, there's a lot of people there cheering, they're blaring music, they're announcing your name, they hand you a medal. All your friends and family are there. It was like a really crazy moment. I've never experienced something like that. I've never experienced something that was so, I don't know, hard and exhausting in a good way, and had people around supporting me in such an excited I've definitely had people support me and care for me and the things I'm doing. But this was just like, I think there's just so many people finishing, so many people you don't know cheering for you. It was just something totally different and new that I really, really loved. And I finished. So my goal was 4 hours, and I finished 3 hours, 37 minutes, which is crazy. Like, there's no way I could have added my times up for my practicing that would have come to that, anywhere close to that. Like I said, I thought maybe I could get 4 hours, but I think, anyway, I was just very stoked and kind of shocked that I could do it that fast. I was definitely one of the later people, but I did not care. I felt like I was so fast because I just never thought I would get it under 4 hours, that far under 4 hours, like closer to 3 hours, 30 minutes than to 4 hours. Blew my mind. Man, and I think I just have to credit it to training. I started training 4 months ago, and started training with some friends with the running, got some coaching help with my swimming. Like, swimming technique is everything, honestly. Like, revolutionized my swim time. That cut a solid 10 minutes off my swim time for the 1.5K when I was practicing, and it got even faster day of. Biking, pedals, or sorry, not pedals, clip-ins, clip shoes. Because when you're using just pedals, all the force you can exert is downward, and you can kind of pull a little bit downward and pulling. But when you're pushing down, you are kind of, there's nothing like pushing against you. So you kind of have limited how hard you can push. And that's the only motion you can do. When you're clipped in, it is so crazy because you can push down, but you can pull back and you can pull up and you can push. Like the whole cycle pedaling can be efficient for moving. And when you're pulling up, I find you can generate more force or more torque because you're pulling yourself against the seat and you have your other pedal. So you're pushing up and you're pushing down, and they can kind of like push against each other. But you just like, when you focus on pulling up, especially going up hills, it really generates a lot of torque. Like really, that cut a lot of time off my bike ride as well. My run time was 1 hour, 3 minutes. And so I think my pace was about 6 minutes, 20 per kilometer, which means the last 5K really shaved a lot of time off. And I've never run a 10K that fast. Nowhere, like they've all been 70, 75 minutes, but to be 63 minutes was crazy, especially at the end of a race. To do that much faster on it was nuts. What do I credit the run to? I had a lot of electrolytes, a lot of gels, and a lot of water on me. The only time I peed the whole race was between the swim and the bike. And I consumed a lot of fluids. And I think the gels I had chia seed powder, which is like so water soluble fiber. And I think that just kept the water in my body. The gels themselves say make sure to consume with a lot of water. And I think that just kept the water inside rather than having to pee it out, which I don't know if that's advantageous or not, because if you keep that in, I had several liters. 1 liter is 2.2 pounds. So that's all the extra weight that you're kind of just keeping in your body that you could be peeing out. So it might be costing you, but maybe for a longer race, that's something you'd have to figure out that could keep you going. But for this one, I don't think it really cost me necessarily. My foot, I've had issues with my left foot the last couple weeks. My second toe next to my big toe and underneath it has felt really sore and tense. So I've been going to physio. Physio is awesome. Our physiotherapist is amazing. And day of, my foot did not bother me once, and probably combo like adrenaline with race day, but I think I got treatment for it last week. Been stretching it out and working on it, so it didn't bother me day of, which was really nice. And the whole week before, I rested and did kind of a soft bike, a slow, short run. I probably would have done one more swim, but I just really rested, slept a lot throughout the whole week, really reduced in inflammatory foods. And I think that just all pays off because your body's not fighting other inflammation. It's just fighting like day of inflammation from pushing it hard. I think that really helped, honestly. And yeah, I just felt so good after. What happened after? My knees, my knees have never been that sore, and I didn't tweak them, but they just got like inflamed that evening. I could hardly do stairs. We went to a restaurant that had stairs, and I was like, oh no. Managed to get up and down, but I was just so slow. I felt like a very old person because my knees were so sore. I tried napping in the afternoon because I was exhausted, but I was exhausted and not tired. So I couldn't really sleep. So that was kind of pointless. And then, just been recovering the last couple days, kind of living in this of doing so well at this triathlon. Thought a lot about what's next. Had people ask me, what's next, Gordo? What's next? I don't know. Maybe marathon. I don't really want to get into Ironmans because I think you're swimming for 3.5 kilometers. You're biking for 180. Like that kind of sounds like boring to do it for that long. And I really like this. Like each thing, like the bike probably sounds long. It was 1 hour, 39 minutes, 37 minutes. But out there it went by so fast. I couldn't believe how fast it was going. The run felt longer, even though it was shorter, because the run was a grind. But yeah, I really liked the bike swim portion of it. Those were both like quite fun. And doing it at a race is so fun. Like I've never been to any kind of marathon, half marathon, nothing like this. It was a really fun environment. And there's just all these other people pushing themselves. People are like, when they're passing you, like going against you when you're passing them like this, they're so nice. When they pass you on the bike, they like wish you good luck and stuff. Like it's really fun and really nice. And what else? Yeah, I had pizza afterwards. Kind of regret that. They had bananas there. I had a couple of bananas. I should have just stayed with that, but whatever. We had pasta that night at this restaurant in town. It was so good. What else? Got ice cream. That was also very good. And yeah, I just feel like I kind of feel like at peace with doing it. Like I kind of feel part of me is like, that was great. Close the door on that chapter. But then there's this other part of me that's like, that was great. What's the next chapter in this story? And I don't really know. There's if I wanted to get better at triathlons, there's a lot I could do. I could decrease my body mass, which would make me more efficient, and I'm carrying less weight. Therefore, my proficiency in these skills would be, I think, direct. It wouldn't be a direct correlation, but if I just lost weight, I would definitely be faster in some of these skills. I could continue working and going for runs and bike rides, swims. But yeah, I just don't really know. I like lifting weights. This kind of prevented me from lifting more weights that I would have liked to do the last couple months. So I'll probably, since I don't have anything like scheduled, I'll probably decrease how much I do these other kind of exercises and increase my weights, I think, for the next few months. And I think I want to tackle a marathon. I think I could do that based on my pacing. If I could just maintain my pace for not the triathlon pace, but just my casual pace, 7.5 minutes, I would not be cut off in a marathon. So that's kind of cool. Something there. And yeah, so I'll probably sign up for a run next. I could for sure do a half marathon pretty soon. But then I'm like, well, why just do half? Why not just schedule full and start training for it? So I might start doing that, I think. But yeah, I think too, like these exercises, I always feel when I'm training, like I feel good. When I'm lifting weights, I feel great. It's like that significant, and it kind of compounds. So I'll do a long run. I'll feel good that day. If I lift weights, I'll feel good for the next 2 or 3 days. It changes your outlook and mindset hugely. Like kind of like I was talking about compound, you get compound gains when you're biking and swimming versus running. I mean, you get compound gains from lifting weights versus cardio based exercises alone. So I think that's kind of what be next. I want to do another triathlon, and I would tell anyone, listen, you could do a sprint triathlon, which is all the half distances, 750 swim, 20K bike, 5K run. And who cares about how fast you can go? Like you get a couple friends, do a sprint triathlon. I think it'd be so fun to do it, because you'd be like, this took me 3 hours, 30 minutes. Like you'd be done within probably 2 hours. Like it'd be pretty easy to finish it under 2 hours. So I think I would tell people, hey, anyone should try this for the first time. You got a couple months before, and it depends how much time. If you got 4 months, you could for sure do a full triathlon. If you only have 2 or 3 months, you could for sure do a sprint. So I would tell people like, yeah, try it. It's pretty fun. And I think I want to really try to get other people to do it with me next year. I think that would be really fun. Not to like pace together, but just sign up and do it together. I think that'd be really fun. So that's kind of like a soft goal, is to get at least one person do it with me next year. I think my wife and her mother and maybe her sister are possibly going to do the sprint next year, which is really fun. So we'll just see like what kind of comes of it. I think you still have to figure out, I don't know, is it something, do I enjoy the activities around it, the training enough to do this regularly, even every year. It's funny because some people, man, when they're setting their bikes up, one guy was like, "Yeah, the stem of my tire broke off. I haven't used this bike all year." And it's like, have you not been biking? Like, you haven't been getting ready for this or what? Like, I don't know. That seems so hard to sign up for something like this and then not, I don't know, not like not train or get ready for it. That seemed wild. No judgment, but just that's not how I function, I guess. Maybe I bet you when you've I bet you when you've done it, it's harder to stay motivated to train enough beforehand. I could see that happening. It's like, oh, I've done this. I know I can do it. But yeah, I'm just very thankful too. Like, I've had great friends that I've done running with, that we go to a spin class. I think going to spin class, although it's different, I think going to spin class, and spin class is an exercise class when you're on stationary bikes and someone's leading, instructing, and there's music, the room's dark. Definitely helped with formation of muscles. Okay, so my knees were sore. Next day, heavily reduced. Maybe if they were 100% sore, just to like, they weren't like the most sore they could be, but just to say that on Sunday night, that's as sore as they got. The next day, they were maybe 30%. So they were a lot better on Monday. Tuesday, they were totally fine. My trap on this side, it's way better now, but even yesterday morning was like significantly tight, because when you're on the bike, you're really facing forward and you want your torso to be kind of in line with the flat with the bike frame or flat with the road maybe, because you're more aerodynamic, and that means you're putting all this weight on your hands, and then that is kind of going up and being held in your neck and shoulders. You know, like when I first did my first 40K bike ride back in August, I could hardly turn to like look. I had to turn my whole body. It was rough for a week. This fortunately was not that bad, but it has been quite sore the last, 3 days. So fortunately that's better too. And my physiotherapist gave me some ways to kind of loosen that muscle up, but that's something you kind of have to be prepared for too, is you kind of get sore in ways you're not fully expecting. And then, so I was sore and taking me a few days to get better, but yeah, I think I do know that I'm goal motivated. I do know I do great when there's kind of goals happening. So I think I am mindful that I think just for my life, one of the best ways to kind of do things is to just sign up for something, pick something that I can't get out of, and then it kind of forces me to get ready for it. And I think that helps. When I don't have that, then it kind of feels like, what am I working towards? When I don't know what I'm working towards, I do less training and exercising, and I kind of want to keep this up. My friend he talked to me if I would do a backyard, I can't remember what it's called, but it's some kind of backyard ultra marathon in Abbotsford here. And it's a last man standing. So it's a 7-kilometer loop. You have to complete the loop every hour, and the last person to complete a loop wins. Everyone else gets registered as did not finish. So that's happening in March. Maybe I would consider doing that. That feels crazy. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I think I'm just going to take it one day at a time, do a bit more weights, see what races are in the future. It's also expensive. This is something I didn't consider when I chose to do this. I was like, oh, it's $200. Okay, whatever. And then there's all these associated costs. I have to get a bike. I have to get you don't have to get clip shoes. You could do this way cheaper. And I think, how would you do this on a budget? Here's what I would recommend. You're doing your first one, sign up, get everything used, which I did. I got a used road bike, but I think I would get an even less expensive one for if you don't know, if you're like, ooh, I don't know if I like biking and I don't know if I want to do this more than once, get a really inexpensive one, bring it to a bike shop, get them to tune it up, and then get baskets for your feet. Cause you don't just need clip shoes, like cycling shoes. You can just get baskets that hook onto the pedals, and then you can get that same, I think it's not going to be as good as clips, but it'll do the job and get you more efficient on it. And then borrow stuff where you can. I borrowed a wetsuit. I borrowed a running vest. But for me, so I bought a bike. That was $550. I bought spin shoes. That was $150. I got the bike tuned up twice. I bought repair stuff for the bike. I had to buy water bottles for the bike. I had to buy, what else did I get? All these gels. The gels were 12 for $40. So those are almost $4 per gel. Yeah. And then it kind of took our whole weekend. So my wife lost her whole weekend. So there's like that cost as well. Yeah, it just kind of keeps adding up, which I didn't anticipate. So that's something like, if you're considering doing a triathlon, just be aware that there's these like extra costs, which isn't like awful, but just is a fact. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I'm so happy with how it went. So happy I did this. I think I'm looking forward to what the future looks like with these different races. I don't want to do them all the time, but I want to do them regularly. I want to do them with friends. I think that would be funnest, to do them with friends. So that's my goal, is to do whatever I do next with other people. And yeah, I think it's fun too, as we hopefully have family in the future, have kids, to do this while you have kids. Some people say, how do you do it? But you just have to like fit stuff in. And I think it's fun to think about doing it while, having other stuff on the go. Here's what my advice would be too. Just like pick something, challenge yourself, do something that you think you might like. And we always have to be pushing ourselves to do new things and trying new things and doing new activities. And, there's some stats out there, like 90% of people over the age of 35 never sprint again in their life. That's kind of a scary thing. And yeah, I think you just got to pick things and try them, push yourself. And it's fun when you have expectations and then you exceed them. That was like a really satisfying thing. So I'm really happy I did this, and I feel great. I don't think I expected to feel as good as I feel, but I feel like amazing after doing it. So I'm really thankful that I did it. Really thankful my wife supported me. Thank you, Alicia, for supporting me through this. And my family, my in-laws came down, my mom came out, friends came out. It was crazy. So thanks everybody came out and supported me. I love you guys. And yeah, looking forward to what's next. All right. Well, thanks for listening, guys. I hope you feel maybe a bit more inspired to do something new, like triathlons or marathons or anything. Just try something new. Yeah, thanks for listening. I appreciate you guys always checking out the episode and staying in touch. And, I'm hoping in the future to have some services I can offer. I know I've like talked about different things on this thing and said, hey, advertisement, or hey, I'm going to do this. But yeah, just appreciate you guys checking it out. If you guys have done, or you want any info, just reach out to me on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, email, and I'd be happy to chat more about it. So thanks so much, and have a great rest of your day.